What if the man who trained Bruce Lee decided to stop teaching him? Could a legendary bond break that easily? Why would IP Man, Bruce's greatest mentor, make such a shocking choice? The real story will surprise you. Their relationship wasn't just about teaching. It was filled with tension, rivalry, and secrets that shaped Bruce Lee's future. Was it Bruce's ambition or something deeper? Let's uncover the truth behind their dramatic split. Bruce Lee's arrival at IP Man's school. Bruce Lee didn't start out in martial arts the way most people think he did. He was good at fighting naturally, but at first it wasn't about discipline or learning old skills. It was about staying alive. Bruce grew up in Hong Kong and was used to living on the rough streets. There were gangs and fights over power all the time in the city. A style wasn't something to learn. It was just about getting by. Bruce was a tough kid who was always ready to show what he could do, but he knew that strong arms alone wouldn't keep him safe. An important fight changed everything for him. There was a fight between Bruce and someone from a powerful triad family. A fight that began innocently quickly turned violent, and Bruce soon found himself surrounded. It was a rough fight, and his normal street fighting style didn't help him. He was scared and realized that his rough, unpolished way of fighting had its boundaries. He needed something stronger, more organized. Bruce didn't want to just stay alive. He wanted to be the best. This made him decide to learn Wing Chun. Bruce's father taught him Tai Chi, which is slow and flowing, and Hung Gar, which is hard and fast. Bruce needed a fighting style that was quick, straight, and useful, and Wing Chun was just that. But it wasn't easy to get to this point. Bruce's choice to look for a martial arts school wasn't made without much thought. He wasn't just trying to get stronger, he needed help finding answers. And one man, IP Man, would give those answers. Bruce had high dreams when he first walked into IP Man's school. This is where martial artists were made. He thought there would be a training ground with advanced skills where he could finally reach his full potential. He didn't find what he thought he would find. His idea of a big dojo was very different from the school. It was quieter than he thought it would be, and there wasn't the fierce energy of street fighting that he was used to. There was almost too much peace and order. He knew he had to be here, though. When Bruce first learned Wing Chun, he felt both interested and frustrated. The moves were not the same as what he was used to seeing. At first, Bruce thought the style gave him enough freedom. Someone who is used to street fights where anything can happen would find the poses too rigid and controlled. It didn't feel like the fast-paced fighting he was looking for. He knew deep down that this wasn't just about fighting, though. It was also about power, and he really needed to be in charge. Even though Bruce didn't believe in himself, his promise was seen. IP Man, who is known for being cool and precise, saw something in Bruce. Without a doubt, Bruce had something that set him apart from the other students. A spark. But it wasn't just about how talented they were. In order to stay within the rules of Wing Chun, Bruce had to change and learn how to control his anger. It was a process that would become clear after a lot of practice, fighting, and thinking about oneself. Bruce's training didn't feel like the revolutionary change he had hoped for at first. He didn't know it yet, but the journey was just getting started. He learned more and more that the lessons he was taking weren't just about punches and kicks. They were also about discipline, attention, and getting better as a fighter. It wasn't just another fight on the street. The change was there. IP Man, Bruce Lee's mentor, saw something special. But when tensions grew, their legendary bond nearly shattered. What happened next? Tensions at IP Man's school. There was always trouble between the old and the new at IP Man's school. The older students, many of whom had been doing Wing Chun for years, stuck to the old ways. They cared about following rules, being respectful, and the martial arts' deep roots. They trained for more than just fighting. They trained to live like martial artists. Bruce Lee was different from the others, though. He didn't care as much about custom. He didn't want to learn a style that was hundreds of years old just because it was traditional. He wanted something that would work in real-life street fights. That's where the stress started. Bruce's aggressive, street-smart way of fighting didn't work with Wing Chun's standard, structured moves. Bruce was always thinking of faster, better ways to fight while the older kids worked on accuracy, patience, and control. He felt like the stiff forms had shut him down. The idea behind Wing Chun was that it should be fluid, but Bruce felt that it wasn't giving him the tools he needed for the fast-paced, unexpected world of street fighting. No one missed how angry he was. Bruce was used to competing, and he quickly found himself in a lot of trouble with his friends. They knew the forms better because they had been there longer and had earned respect through time and practice. But Bruce made quick progress. He wasn't just learning Wing Chun. He was taking it in, changing it, and pushing the limits of what it could do. IP Man was interested in him because he was naturally good at what he did and wouldn't settle for less than the best. And that's when things got angry. The bigger kids started to dislike how quickly Bruce learned. Even though he was young, IP Man paid extra attention to him. They thought Bruce didn't deserve it. They had paid their dues, but he hadn't. He wasn't one of those people. Bruce was eager to question the way things were, which made him stand out, but not in a way that won him respect. Older students saw him as a threat because he was different, and reminded them that someone could break the rules they had worked so hard to learn. The mean people at school got worse as Bruce's skills got better. No longer was it just about fighting, it was about them. The fact that Bruce came from a mixed family made things worse. A lot of the students thought of him as not being fully part of the group they had made. People thought he was cocky, and IP Man was always staring at him, which made things even worse. The other students thought Bruce didn't know or care about Wing Chun's history. They thought he only wanted to use it to win fights and not honor the practice. The rising hostility was too much to handle. Bruce didn't just fight his friends in sparring sessions, he did it all the time in class. During drills, the older kids went after him and tried to find ways to push him out. They didn't just attack physically, they also attacked mentally and emotionally. People made fun of Bruce every time he did something wrong, and they were angry every time he won. Things got worse for them as they tried to push Bruce back. He had agreed to fight, but this wasn't it. What happens when a martial arts legend student pushes boundaries, angering his classmates? Bruce Lee's journey reveals it all. Bruce Lee's drive. It was impossible to ignore how competitive Bruce Lee was. He wanted to do better in martial arts than just learn it. He went into every class and sparring session with the attitude of someone who was set on being the best. It wasn't just about the techniques. He wanted to show that he could beat everyone, even his masters and classmates. His strong drive made him question everything, from the methods he learned to how Wing Chun was taught. If it meant getting ahead faster than anyone thought possible, he wasn't afraid to question authority. Bruce got into a fight with William Chung, a senior Wing Chun student, which was one of the most important events. Bruce's need to prove himself and his arrogance got the best of him, which led to a fight that made him look bad. Even though Bruce was sure of himself, William's skill and experience beat him. It was a terrible blow to his pride to lose. It made him question everything he had learned in training. If his street-smart way of fighting wasn't enough to beat William, then was Wing Chun really the answer? Someone or something made Bruce understand that his anger wasn't enough after the loss. He had to change, get his ego under control, and really accept restraint. But Bruce didn't give up being competitive. Instead of being sad about losing, he became even more driven to do better next time. He was always trying to get better, which pushed him to question the older students and put up a wall between him and the other students. They saw him as a danger because he was making so much progress so quickly and because he was always questioning the way things were always done. People were jealous of him because he was cocky, wouldn't fit in, and liked to show off his natural skills. The fact that Bruce had mixed ancestry made things even worse. His background caused problems with some of his classmates who thought that a foreigner didn't fit in the holy halls of Wing Chun. Because he was an outsider and people thought he was cocky, he was easy to pick on and leave out. When Bruce fought to prove himself, things got more tense. When his competitors saw how far he had come, they were jealous and made things even harder for him. IP Man's decision on why he stopped teaching Bruce. There was too much stress in the school, and it broke. As someone who used to be very interested in Bruce's success, IP Man found himself in a tough spot. He saw Bruce's raw talent and unwavering drive and admired his potential. But the school environment had become more and more toxic. The older students didn't like how quickly Bruce was learning, and now they saw him as a cause for trouble. The more Bruce tried to prove himself, the more people were against him. It was no longer just about fighting, it was personal. It was clear that there were differences between the classes, and Bruce's presence was making people angry as well as competitive. Because Bruce came from a mixed background, it made things worse. Many of the older students, who were very attached to custom, thought he was strange. There was trouble at school because of the reports about his foreign blood, which could have come from Dutch or other European ancestry. They didn't think Bruce should be a part of their holy martial art because of his past. Even though Bruce was very good at what he did, this bias made it harder for him to fit in because it made the feeling of rejection stronger. He made things worse by refusing to accept the practice, and the older students started to demand that he be kicked out. IP Man was in a tough spot. At the same time, he admired Bruce's skill and drive, but he also couldn't ignore the growing trouble at his school. His students, who had been loyal to him for years, were now publicly questioning his choice to pay extra attention to Bruce. As things stood, IP Man was aware that they could upset the school's peace that he had worked so hard to create. IP Man made the tough choice to step back instead of letting Bruce become a problem. Bruce was no longer taught directly by him. Instead, he was sent to learn with Wang Shun-leung, who was one of his most trusted senior students. This wasn't an insult to Bruce. It was a planned move to keep the school calm and let Bruce keep improving as a martial artist. It was known that Wang was good at street fighting, which fit with Bruce's desire to be efficient and learn how to fight in real life. Bruce was able to continue his training away from the conflicting environment, which gave him the freedom to grow without the pressure of his peers' jealousy. IP Man made his choice because he wanted to keep things fair, but he also knew that Bruce needed to grow in his own way, not by following the rules. From Wing Chun to Jeet Kune, Bruce Lee started a new part of his martial arts journey after he stopped being directly coached by IP Man. This part would change the course of his life and the martial arts world forever. Bruce's fighting style started to change into something much more useful and good for street fights when Wang Shun-leung taught him. Wang, who is known for focusing on real-world applications, stressed the importance of being quick, clear, and flexible, which really hit home with Bruce. This change in Bruce's training was a major turning point in his growth as a scholar and a fighter. It was not the same as the classic Wing Chun that Bruce had learned from Wang Shun-leung. IP Man's lessons were based on discipline and traditional forms, but Wang's lessons were based on real life. Wang didn't teach Bruce complicated techniques or slow, traditional moves. Instead, he taught him how to act quickly and effectively in a street fight. Bruce got better at controlling the center line, but what was more important was that he taught Bruce how to use those skills in changing, fast-paced situations where speed and usefulness were most important. Bruce found that the more traditional parts of Wing Chun, like the stiff stances and slow practice, were less and less useful. He came to Wing Chun to learn how to win street fights, not to learn a method that put tradition ahead of success. Bruce was obsessed with winning street fights by using whatever techniques worked best at the time. This made him reject the traditional parts of martial arts that didn't fit with his goal of being the best fighter ever. He was no longer interested in improving his form just for the sake of it. Instead, he wanted to learn how to win in any setting and as quickly as possible without having to worry about rules or manners. Bruce Lee's training with Wang Shun-leung shaped his ideas about martial arts and laid the groundwork for what would become Jeet Kune. Bruce's most important lessons from Wang were based on keeping things simple and useful. Bruce began to think that with martial arts, you shouldn't have to stick to one style. Instead, you should use the style that works best in any given scenario. In the end, he said that his philosophy was using no way as way, which meant that he wasn't limited by any one method. What worked was what was important. Bruce realized that he wasn't limited to Wing Chun techniques thanks to Wong's training. He could take the best parts of any style and make them fit his needs. Bruce's life changed when he understood that his true potential wasn't just to get better at Wing Chun, but to make a martial art that reflected his own unique vision. He had learned enough from IP Man and Wong to understand the basic rules of good fighting. It was now time to break with custom and make something completely new. This is where Bruce Lee's own martial arts theory, Jeet Kune Do, got its start. It mixed parts of Wing Chun with boxing, fencing, and other fighting styles. Bruce Lee's evolution outside IP Man's school sparked the creation of Jeet Kune Do, changing martial arts history forever. IP Man's legacy and influence on Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee never forgot what he had learned from IP Man, even after he stopped learning directly from him. There was no personal hostility between them. Instead, Bruce's desire to grow beyond the limits of traditional martial arts led to their breakup. Even after he came up with his own martial arts philosophy, Bruce always recognized the basic ideas that IP Man had taught him. Bruce's early lessons stuck with him and changed how he did martial arts and how he lived his life. Bruce learned a few important ideas from Wing Chun that would shape his future work, being quick, clear, and basic. These weren't just fighting moves. They were a way of thinking about how to move and act. Bruce Lee used these ideas not only when he fought, but also when he thought. Being efficient meant putting in the least amount of work to get the most done. Being direct meant getting to the heart of the matter, in battle or in everyday life. Simplicity meant getting rid of moves that weren't needed and focusing on the ones that did. These ideas would help Bruce on his journey through martial arts, which led to the creation of Jeet Kune Do. Bruce's journey didn't end with Wing Chun, though. As he got stronger, he started to use ideas from other types of martial arts like boxing, fencing, and even wrestling. He took the best parts of many different fields and put them together because he was very curious and wanted to learn useful skills. Bruce was never happy with just one style or way of doing things. He thought that martial arts should be flexible, easy to use in different situations, and most importantly, useful all the time. He didn't want to be limited to one system, so he used a mix of systems that made Jeet Kune Do special. Bruce learned the idea of using no way as way from IP Man, and it was a very important part of his growth as a martial arts creator. This idea stressed how important it is to be flexible and adaptable, which let Bruce keep changing how he does things. It wasn't about sticking to one road, it was about helping each person find the right one. In Jeet Kune Do, this idea became the most important thing. The attention was always on what worked, not what was expected. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click on the video popping up on your screen to dive deeper into Bruce Lee's legendary journey.